Family dog growls at little girl every night. Then Dad discovers the terrifying truth. The soft glow of the nightlight cast long shadows across Sophie's bedroom, painting the walls with dancing figures that seemed to whisper secrets in the stillness of the night. Sophie, nestled beneath her favorite unicorn blanket, slept soundly, her 6-year-old dreams filled with rainbows and talking animals. Downstairs, in the dimly lit living room, Ben Thompson sat engrossed in a late-night movie, the flickering images on the screen reflecting in his tired eyes. A sudden growl from the corner of the room startled him, his gaze shifting towards Max, their loyal German shepherd, who stood rigid, his ears pricked, his eyes fixed intently on the hallway leading to Sophie's room. "Max, what is it, boy?" Ben murmured, his voice a low rumble that barely disturbed the quiet hum of the house.
Max,
however, remained fixated on the hallway, his growl deepening, a low, guttural sound that vibrated through the floorboards. Ben frowned, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. Max was a gentle giant, a cherished member of their family, his protective instincts usually reserved for squirrels and the occasional stray cat that ventured into their backyard. This recent behavior, this nightly growling directed at Sophie's room, was both puzzling and concerning. He set aside his remote, his curiosity piqued. He had dismissed it initially, attributing it to the creaking of the old house or perhaps a noise from outside that had startled the dog. But the consistency of Max's reaction, the focused intensity of his gaze, the timing that always coincided with Sophie's bedtime, suggested something more than a mere canine quirk. He rose from the couch, his footsteps padding softly across the carpeted floor. "Come on, Max," he coaxed, his voice gentle now, his hand outstretched in a reassuring gesture. Max, however, remained rooted to the spot, his growl a persistent undercurrent to the quiet hum of the house.
Ben,
his concern growing, approached the dog, his hand gently resting on his head, feeling the tension in his muscles, the alertness in his posture. "What is it, boy?" he whispered, his voice soothing. "What do you see?" Max whined softly, his brown eyes filled with an intensity that sent a shiver down Ben's spine. He followed the dog's gaze, his own eyes scanning the dimly lit hallway, searching for any sign of disturbance, any logical explanation for Max's unusual behavior. But the hallway remained empty, the only sound the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock in the foyer. Ben, his unease growing, felt a prickle of apprehension, a sense that something was amiss, something that Max, with his heightened senses, could perceive but he couldn't. He patted Max reassuringly, his voice firm but gentle. "It's okay, boy. Everything's fine." He led Max back to his bed by the fireplace, his own footsteps now heavier, his mind filled with questions. He glanced at the hallway, a shadow of doubt lingering in his eyes. He trusted Max, his loyal companion, his protector. But what was it that the dog sensed? What unseen threat had triggered this nightly ritual of growling and unease? He settled back on the couch, his movie now forgotten, his mind replaying Max's behavior, his heart filled with a growing sense of foreboding. He knew he couldn't ignore this, couldn't dismiss it as a mere quirk of canine behavior. He had to find answers, to uncover the truth behind Max's unsettling nightly vigil, to ensure the safety of his beloved daughter, Sophie. The following night, Ben found himself drawn to the living room, his gaze instinctively fixed on the hallway leading to Sophie's room. He had barely slept the previous night, his mind replaying Max's unsettling behavior, his heart filled with a growing sense of unease. He had tried to rationalize it, to attribute it to some logical explanation, but the intensity of Max's reaction, the focused direction of his growls, the unwavering consistency of his nightly vigil, all pointed towards something more than a mere canine quirk. He decided to observe, to document the pattern, to search for clues that might unravel the mystery. He noted the exact time of the growling, the duration, the subtle changes in Max's posture and demeanor. He even ventured into the hallway, his footsteps cautious, his senses alert, but found nothing out of the ordinary. Sophie's room was peaceful, the soft glow of the nightlight casting long shadows across the walls, her stuffed animals arranged on the shelves, her small form nestled beneath the covers, her breathing soft and rhythmic. Ben felt a pang of protectiveness, a fierce determination to ensure her safety, to uncover the source of Max's unease. He returned to the living room, his mind racing with questions. Was Max sensing something he couldn't perceive? Some subtle change in the environment? Some unseen presence that triggered his protective instincts? Or was this merely a behavioral quirk, an unexplained canine obsession that would eventually fade away? He dismissed the latter possibility. Max was a highly intelligent and perceptive dog, his senses honed by years of training and companionship. He trusted Max's instincts, his loyalty, his unwavering dedication to their family. He decided to delve deeper, to explore every possible avenue, to leave no stone unturned in his quest to uncover the truth behind Max's unsettling behavior. He consulted with their veterinarian, describing Max's nightly growls, his focused attention on Sophie's room, his otherwise gentle and loving nature. The veterinarian, though sympathetic, offered no concrete explanations. He suggested a possible medical condition, a neurological issue that might be causing Max's heightened sensitivity. He recommended a series of tests, scans, and examinations to rule out any underlying health problems. Ben, though grateful for the advice, felt a nagging doubt. He couldn't shake the feeling that Max's behavior was triggered by something external, something specific to their home, something that threatened the safety of his beloved daughter. He returned home, his mind filled with a renewed determination. He would continue his observations, document every detail, and explore every possibility until he uncovered the truth behind Max's nightly vigil, until he could assure himself that Sophie was safe, that their home was truly a haven of peace and security. That night, as the grandfather clock chimed 10 times, Ben held his breath, his gaze fixed on Max, who stood poised at the entrance to the hallway, his body rigid, his growl a low rumble that echoed through the quiet house. Ben's heart pounded in his chest, his paternal instincts kicking in, his determination solidifying. He would not rest until he had uncovered the truth, until he had protected his daughter from whatever unseen threat lurked in the shadows of their home. Ben's once familiar home transformed into a source of unsettling mysteries. The everyday sounds of creaking floorboards and the hum of the refrigerator now seemed amplified, each tick of the clock a hammer blow against the silence. He found himself hyper-alert, his senses straining to catch any anomaly, any deviation from the ordinary. One evening, while reading a bedtime story to Sophie, a sudden chill swept through the room. He glanced up, noticing the flickering of the bedside lamp, its light casting dancing shadows across the walls. Sophie, oblivious to the subtle shift in the atmosphere, snuggled closer, her eyes wide with wonder as she listened to the tale of brave knights and magical creatures. Later that night, as Ben lay awake, his mind replaying the day's events, a series of thumps echoed from the attic. He held his breath, straining to identify the source, his heart pounding against his ribs. He imagined squirrels scurrying across the insulation, or perhaps the wind rattling the old window panes. But a nagging doubt lingered, a sense that something more sinister was at play. The following morning, he ventured into the attic, armed with a flashlight and a growing sense of apprehension. Dust motes danced in the beam of light, illuminating cobwebs and forgotten treasures stored in cardboard boxes. He scanned the rafters, the floorboards, the shadowy corners, searching for any sign of disturbance, any evidence to support his growing suspicions. He found nothing conclusive, but the unsettling feeling persisted, a prickle of unease that clung to him like cobwebs. He descended the attic stairs, his mind awhirl with questions, his senses on high alert. That night, as he lay in bed, listening to the rhythmic breathing of his sleeping wife, Emily, a cold spot settled over his feet. He shivered, pulling the blankets tighter, his gaze fixed on the darkened ceiling. He thought of Max, his loyal companion, whose nightly growls seemed to echo the growing unease within him. He rose from the bed, padding softly across the room to Sophie's door. He opened it a crack, peering into the dimly lit room. Sophie slept peacefully, her chest rising and falling with each gentle breath. He felt a surge of protectiveness, a fierce determination to shield her from whatever unseen forces might be lurking in the shadows. He returned to bed, his sleep troubled by fragmented dreams and a lingering sense of unease. The house, once a haven of comfort and security, now felt like a vessel adrift on a sea of uncertainty. Its familiar sounds now whispers of a hidden threat. The unsettling events continued, each night bringing a new wave of inexplicable occurrences. One evening, a picture frame inexplicably fell from the living room wall, shattering on the hardwood floor. Another night, the kitchen tap turned on by itself, its steady drip echoing through the silent house like a ghostly metronome. Ben's concern grew with each passing day, his initial skepticism giving way to a gnawing fear. He confided in Emily, his voice hushed, his words laced with a mix of apprehension and disbelief. "I think there's something in the house, he confessed, his eyes searching hers for understanding. Emily, a woman of unwavering practicality, initially dismissed his concerns. "Ben, it's an old house," she reasoned. "Things creak and settle. It's perfectly normal." But as Ben recounted the escalating events, the flickering lights, the cold spots, the unexplained noises, a flicker of doubt crept into her eyes. She couldn't deny the consistency of Max's nightly growls, the focused intensity of his gaze towards Sophie's room, the unwavering alarm in his demeanor. "Maybe we should have Max checked by a vet," she suggested, her voice laced with a hint of worry, "just to be safe." Ben agreed, but his intuition told him that Max's behavior was a symptom, not the cause of the unsettling events. He felt a growing conviction that something more sinister was at play, something that transcended the realm of logic and reason. He began researching online, his search queries leading him down a rabbit hole of paranormal phenomena and haunted house stories. He read accounts of families terrorized by unseen entities, of unexplained occurrences that defied scientific explanation, of homes imbued with a dark history that refused to remain buried. He stumbled upon forums dedicated to paranormal investigations, his curiosity piqued by the shared experiences of those who claimed to have encountered the supernatural. He read about electromagnetic field fluctuations, cold spots, and unexplained noises, all phenomena he had witnessed in his own home. He learned about the possibility of residual energy, imprints of past events that lingered in certain locations, their presence often manifesting in subtle disturbances. He considered the history of their house, its age, its previous occupants, the possibility that it harbored a hidden past, a story that was now resurfacing in the form of unsettling events. He felt a shiver run down his spine, a primal fear gripping his heart. He was no longer dealing with a mere canine quirk, a behavioral anomaly. He was facing the unknown, the inexplicable, a force that threatened the safety of his beloved daughter. He looked at Emily, her face pale, her eyes filled with a fear that mirrored his own. He looked at Max, who lay curled up by the fireplace, his body tense, his gaze fixed on the hallway leading to Sophie's room, his growl a low rumble of warning. He knew this was just the beginning, the first step into a world of uncertainty and fear, a world where the boundaries between the seen and unseen blurred, a world where he would have to confront the unknown to protect his family, to safeguard his beloved daughter from the shadows that lurked within the walls of their home. The world, as Max perceived it, was a symphony of scents, a tapestry woven with olfactory threads invisible to human eyes. He navigated the Anderson home with an innate awareness, his canine senses painting a vivid picture of the unseen. He smelled the fear that clung to Ben and Emily, a subtle tang that mingled with their familiar sense of comfort and love. He smelled the changes in the air, the subtle shifts in temperature and pressure that hinted at disturbances beyond the realm of human perception. And he smelled the darkness that lurked in the shadows, a cold, metallic odor that sent shivers down his spine and raised the hackles on his neck. It emanated most strongly from Sophie's room, a chilling presence that grew stronger with each passing night. He saw it too, in the periphery of his vision, a fleeting shadow that darted across the walls, a distortion in the air that hinted at a form both alien and menacing. He would growl, a low warning rumble in his chest, his instincts urging him to protect his family from this unseen intruder. He tried to warn them, his nightly growls a desperate attempt to communicate the danger. He would paw at Ben's leg, whine softly, his eyes pleading for understanding. But his efforts were met with confusion and reassurance, his human family oblivious to the threat that he perceived so clearly. He felt a growing frustration, a sense of helplessness as the darkness grew bolder, its presence seeping into the very fabric of their home. He would pace restlessly outside Sophie's room, his body a barrier between her innocence and the lurking shadows. He would stare intently at the corners, his eyes piercing the darkness, his senses alert to any movement, any shift in the unseen energy that permeated their home. He would growl and whine, his vocalizations a desperate plea for his family to heed his warnings. He knew they couldn't see what he saw, couldn't smell the chilling scent of the intruder, couldn't feel the cold dread that emanated from the shadows. But he also knew, with an instinctive certainty, that this unseen presence was a threat, a danger that lurked closer with each passing night. And as the days turned into weeks, and the darkness grew stronger, Max's anxiety intensified. He knew that time was running out, that the danger was escalating, that he had to find a way to protect his family, to awaken them to the threat that lurked within the walls of their home, a threat that only he could perceive, a threat that only he could shield them from. Ben's pursuit of answers led him down a path of historical records and local lore, his determination fueled by a growing sense of dread. He spent hours in the local library, poring over dusty volumes and microfiche files, his eyes scanning faded photographs and handwritten accounts of the town's history. He discovered that their house, built in the late 1800s, had a troubled past. Its original owner, a wealthy industrialist named Elias Thorne, had been a man of ruthless ambition and questionable morals. Rumors of shady business dealings and a volatile temper had swirled around him, casting a shadow over his opulent lifestyle. The house itself had been the scene of a tragic incident, a fire that had claimed the lives of Thorne's wife and young daughter. The cause of the fire remained a mystery, the official report citing an accidental chimney fire, but whispers of foul play and a possible cover-up lingered in the town's collective memory. Ben's curiosity piqued. He delved deeper into the Thorne family history, uncovering a pattern of misfortune and tragedy. Elias Thorne, consumed by grief and guilt after the fire, had become a recluse, his once vibrant mansion falling into disrepair. He had died within its walls a few years later, his death attributed to a heart attack, but rumors of suicide and even murder persisted. The house had changed hands several times over the years, each owner experiencing a series of unsettling events, unexplained noises, flickering lights, and a pervasive sense of unease. Some had attributed these occurrences to the house's age and its creaky structure, while others whispered of a lingering presence, a darkness that clung to the walls, a reminder of the tragic events that had unfolded within its confines. Ben, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread, felt a growing conviction that he had stumbled upon the key to the mystery that plagued his family. The unsettling events, Max's nightly growls, the whispers in the walls, the cold spots, the flickering lights, they were all connected to the dark history of their home. The lingering presence of Elias Thorne, his spirit trapped within the walls, his anger and sorrow echoing through the years. He returned home, his mind reeling with the implications of his discovery. He shared his findings with Emily, her face paling as she listened to his account of Elias Thorne's troubled life, the tragic fire, and the lingering presence that seemed to haunt their home. Their once peaceful haven now felt tainted, the familiar rooms imbued with an unsettling energy. The creaking floorboards seemed to whisper secrets, The flickering lights cast eerie shadows, and the cold spots lingered like the touch of an unseen hand. Ben, his protective instincts heightened, felt a surge of determination. He would not allow his family to be terrorized by the shadows of the past. He would confront the darkness, uncover the truth, and protect his beloved daughter from the unseen forces that threatened their peace. The weight of the house's history pressed down on Ben, the knowledge of its tragic past transforming his once comforting home into a source of constant unease. He found himself scrutinizing every shadow, every creak, every flicker of light, his senses hyper-alert to any sign of the unseen presence that haunted their lives. Max's nightly growls intensified, his anxiety escalating in tandem with Ben's own growing apprehension. The dog would pace restlessly outside Sophie's room, his deep-throated warnings echoing through the house, his eyes fixed on the unseen presence that only he could perceive. Desperate for answers, Ben sought help from the realm of the paranormal. He contacted a local group of paranormal investigators, their website filled with testimonials and grainy photographs of spectral figures and unexplained phenomena. He arranged a meeting, his voice trembling with a mix of hope and trepidation. The investigators, a husband and wife team named Robert and Laura, arrived at the house with an air of quiet professionalism. They carried an array of equipment, EMF meters, thermal cameras, and audio recorders, their tools a curious blend of science and the supernatural. They began their investigation with a methodical thoroughness that surprised Ben. They measured electromagnetic fields, recorded temperature fluctuations, and analyzed sound frequencies, their instruments clicking and whirring, their voices a low murmur of technical jargon. They interviewed Ben and Emily, their questions probing, their expressions neutral, their notepads filling with details of Max's behavior, the flickering lights, the cold spots, and the unexplained noises. They listened intently, their skepticism masked by a professional curiosity, their eyes betraying a hint of intrigue at the unfolding mystery. They explored the house, their footsteps echoing through the once familiar rooms, their flashlights cutting through the shadows, their presence transforming the Thompson home into a stage for the unknown. They lingered in Sophie's room, their instruments humming, their faces grim, their silence amplifying the sense of unease that had settled over the house. As the investigation progressed, Ben felt a growing sense of validation. These professionals, with their scientific approach and their specialized equipment, were confirming his suspicions, acknowledging the presence of something unusual, something that defied logical explanation. But with the validation came a deeper sense of dread. If these investigators, with their years of experience and their arsenal of ghost-hunting tools, were taking this seriously, then the threat to Sophie, the unseen presence that Max had sensed all along, must be real, must be significant. He watched as Laura analyzed the readings from her EMF meter, her brow furrowed, her lips pursed in concentration. He listened as Robert described the unusual temperature fluctuations, his voice low and measured, his words painting a picture of a house harboring unseen energies. He felt a shiver run down his spine, a primal fear gripping his heart. He was no longer dealing with a mere canine quirk, a behavioral anomaly. He was facing the unknown, the inexplicable, a force that threatened the safety of his beloved daughter. As the investigators packed up their equipment, their faces etched with a seriousness that mirrored his own growing apprehension, Robert turned to Ben, his voice grave. "Mr. Thompson," he said, "we've detected some unusual readings, some anomalies that suggest the presence of something else in this house." Ben nodded, his heart sinking with the confirmation of his fears. "What do you think it is?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Robert hesitated, his eyes filled with a mix of caution and concern. "It's too early to say for sure," he replied, "but we believe there may be a residual energy, a presence attached to this house, possibly connected to its tragic history." Ben felt a wave of dread wash over him. Presence. An unseen entity sharing their space, lurking in the shadows, its intentions unknown, its potential for harm a terrifying unknown. He looked at Emily, her face pale, her eyes filled with a fear that mirrored his own. He looked at Max, who stood by the doorway, his body tense, his gaze fixed on the hallway leading to Sophie's room, his growl a low rumble of warning. He knew this was just the beginning, the first step into a world of uncertainty and fear, a world where the boundaries between the seen and unseen blurred, a world where he would have to confront the unknown to protect his family, to safeguard his beloved daughter from the shadows that lurked within the walls of their home. The confirmation of a supernatural presence in their home sent a chill down Ben's spine. He had always been a man of logic and reason, but the escalating events, Max's unwavering vigilance, and the investigators' findings forced him to confront the reality of the unseen, the inexplicable. He spent the following days researching paranormal phenomena, delving into ancient folklore and modern theories, seeking to understand the nature of the entity that shared their space. He learned about residual energy, imprints of past emotions and events that lingered in certain locations, their presence often manifesting in subtle disturbances. He also discovered darker entities, malevolent spirits trapped between worlds, their energy feeding on fear and negativity, their intentions often malicious and destructive. He shuddered at the thought of such a presence lurking in his home, its focus seemingly fixated on his innocent daughter. He shared his findings with Emily, their conversations now hushed whispers in the quiet corners of their home, their eyes constantly darting towards the shadows, their senses hyper-alert to any unusual occurrence. They spoke of the tragic history of their house, the possibility of Elias Thorne's restless spirit seeking retribution, his anger and sorrow echoing through the years. They discussed the need to protect Sophie, their conversations filled with a mix of fear and determination. They considered moving, leaving the house and its unsettling presence behind, but the thought of abandoning their home, the place where they had built their lives, where Sophie had taken her first steps, filled them with a sense of loss and reluctance. They decided to stay, to face the unknown, to protect their daughter, to reclaim their home from the shadows that threatened to consume it. They sought further guidance from Robert and Laura, the paranormal investigators, their recommendations a mix of practical measures and spiritual rituals. They cleansed the house with sage, its pungent smoke filling the rooms, its cleansing properties a desperate attempt to dispel the lingering darkness. They placed protective crystals in each corner, their shimmering facets reflecting the light, their energy a barrier against the unseen forces. And they relied on Max, their loyal protector, his growls a constant reminder of the unseen threat, his presence a source of comfort and reassurance in the face of the unknown. They knew they were facing a battle against forces beyond their comprehension, but they were determined to fight, to protect their family, to reclaim their home from the shadows of the past. Robert and Laura returned for a follow-up investigation, their equipment now augmented with motion sensors and infrared cameras, their determination to capture evidence of the entity's presence unwavering. They spent hours monitoring the house, their faces illuminated by the glow of their laptops, their fingers flying across the keyboards as they analyzed the data streaming from their devices. And then, in the dead of night, as the house creaked and groaned under the weight of its secrets, a chilling image appeared on the monitor. A shadowy figure, tall and gaunt, materialized in the hallway outside Sophie's room, its form flickering in and out of focus, its presence accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature and a surge in electromagnetic activity. Ben and Emily, their hearts pounding in their chests, watched in horrified fascination as the figure moved towards Sophie's door, its intentions unclear but undeniably menacing. Max, his growl a deep rumble of warning, sprang to his feet, his body positioned protectively in front of the door, his eyes fixed on the shadowy intruder. The investigators, their voices hushed with excitement and apprehension, documented the event, their cameras capturing the chilling image, their instruments recording the undeniable evidence of a supernatural presence. They confirmed Ben's suspicions, their words echoing the growing dread in his heart. "It's a malevolent entity," Robert whispered, his voice grave. "It's attached to this house, and it seems to be fixated on your daughter." Ben felt a wave of fear wash over him, a primal instinct to protect his child from the unseen danger that lurked within the walls of their home. He looked at Emily, her face pale, her eyes filled with terror. He looked at Max, his loyal companion, his growl a defiant challenge to the shadowy intruder. He knew this was just the beginning, the first act in a terrifying drama that was unfolding in their lives. A drama where the boundaries between the seen and unseen blurred, a drama where they would have to confront the darkness to protect their family, to safeguard their beloved daughter from the clutches of the entity that haunted their home. The revelation of the malevolent entity's presence cast a dark pall over the Thompson household. The once familiar rooms now felt oppressive, the shadows deeper, the silence punctuated by an undercurrent of dread. Ben and Emily, their faces etched with worry, moved through their daily routines with a forced normalcy, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of the unseen danger that lurked within their walls. Sophie, oblivious to the looming threat, remained her cheerful and carefree self. She played with her dolls, sang songs with an infectious enthusiasm, and showered Max with affection, her innocence a stark contrast to the growing darkness that surrounded them. But the entity's presence grew bolder, its manifestations escalating from subtle disturbances to overt acts of aggression. Objects moved inexplicably, doors slammed shut with unseen force, and chilling whispers echoed through the hallways, their voices a haunting chorus of malice and intent. One evening, as Ben tucked Sophie into bed, a cold gust of wind swept through her room, extinguishing the night light and plunging the space into darkness. Sophie whimpered, her small body trembling with fear. Ben, his heart pounding, fumbled for the light switch, his mind conjuring images of the shadowy figure captured on the investigator's camera. He flicked on the light, the sudden illumination revealing Sophie huddled beneath her blankets, her eyes wide with terror. He held her close, his voice soothing, his heart aching for her innocence, his resolve to protect her hardening with each passing moment. The following night, as the family sat down to dinner, a vase inexplicably flew across the room, shattering against the wall with a deafening crash. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her chest, her eyes wide with fear. Sophie, her face pale, burst into tears, her cries echoing the growing sense of terror that permeated their home. Ben, his anger rising, slammed his fist on the table, his voice a defiant roar. "Enough!" he shouted, his words directed at the unseen entity. "Leave my family alone." His outburst, however, was met with an eerie silence, a chilling stillness that hung heavy in the air. The entity, it seemed, was not intimidated, its presence growing stronger, its intentions becoming clearer with each passing day. Max, his senses heightened, his protective instincts reaching a fever pitch, growled menacingly, his body positioned between Sophie and the hallway, his eyes fixed on the unseen danger that lurked just beyond their perception. He knew, with a certainty that transcended his canine understanding, that the threat was escalating, that the time for subtle warnings was over, that the battle for his family's safety was about to begin. The escalating attacks from the unseen entity pushed the Thompson family to the brink of despair. Fear hung heavy in the air, a suffocating presence that permeated every corner of their once happy home. Sleep became a luxury, replaced by restless nights filled with whispered anxieties and watchful vigilance. Ben, his paternal instincts amplified by the growing threat, became a sentinel, his days spent researching ancient rituals and protective measures, his nights patrolling the house, armed with a baseball bat and a desperate hope to shield his family from the encroaching darkness. Emily, her usual calm demeanor replaced by a nervous tension, clung to Sophie, her every action imbued with a protective urgency. She showered her daughter with affection, her voice a constant reassurance against the fear that gnawed at their hearts. Sophie, her innocence shattered by the escalating terror, clung to her parents and Max, her childhood joy replaced by a wide-eyed fear that mirrored the growing darkness in their home. She sought comfort in Max's warm fur and gentle presence, his unwavering loyalty a beacon of safety in the storm. One night, As the family huddled together in the living room, the entity's presence manifested with a terrifying intensity. The lights flickered violently, casting grotesque shadows that danced across the walls. Furniture rattled, pictures flew off the shelves, and a chilling cold swept through the room, its icy touch raising goosebumps on their skin. Max, his growl a deep rumble of warning, sprang to his feet, his body positioned protectively in front of Sophie, his eyes fixed on the unseen danger that swirled around them. He barked ferociously, his voice a defiant challenge to the entity, his teeth bared, his muscles tense, ready to defend his family. Suddenly, a heavy antique mirror crashed to the floor, its shattered fragments scattering across the room, its sharp edges glinting menacingly in the dim light. A wave of terror washed over the family, their hearts pounding in unison with the escalating chaos. And then it appeared, a shadowy figure, tall and gaunt, materialized in the hallway, its form flickering in and out of focus, its presence accompanied by a suffocating cold and a wave of malevolent energy. Its eyes, glowing with an eerie light, fixed on Sophie, its intentions clear, its malice palpable. Ben, his fear momentarily forgotten in a surge of protective rage, lunged forward, his baseball bat raised high. "Get away from my daughter!" he roared, his voice echoing through the terrified house. The entity, however, seemed unfazed. It moved towards Sophie, its shadowy form gliding across the floor, its outstretched hand reaching for her with a chilling intent. Max, with a guttural growl that ripped through the tension, launched himself at the entity, his powerful body colliding with the shadowy form, his teeth sinking into its ethereal flesh. A howl of rage and pain echoed through the house as the entity recoiled, its form flickering violently, its grip on the physical world weakening. Ben, seizing the opportunity, charged forward, his bat connecting with the entity's shadowy form, sending it reeling back into the hallway. The entity, its energy disrupted, its form dissolving into the shadows, let out a final chilling scream before vanishing into the darkness. The house fell silent, the only sound the rapid breathing of the terrified family and the panting of Max, his body still tense, his eyes scanning the shadows, his protective instincts still on high alert. They clung to each other, their bodies trembling, their hearts pounding, the adrenaline of the confrontation slowly giving way to the realization of the horrifying truth they had just faced. The aftermath of the confrontation left the Thompson family shaken and vulnerable. The silence that followed the entity's retreat was heavy with a mix of relief and lingering fear. They clung to each other, their bodies trembling, their hearts pounding, the adrenaline of the encounter slowly giving way to the realization of the horrifying truth they had just faced. Sophie, her eyes wide with terror, buried her face in her mother's embrace, her small body shaking with sobs. Emily, her own fear masked by a mother's protective instincts, held her daughter close, whispering soothing words, her voice a trembling beacon of comfort in the darkness. Ben, his adrenaline fading, felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. He knelt beside Max, his hand gently stroking the dog's fur, his voice filled with gratitude and admiration. "You saved her, boy," he whispered, his eyes meeting Max's, their shared understanding transcending words. "Max," his body still tense, his senses still on high alert, licked Ben's hand, his gesture a silent acknowledgement of their shared responsibility, their bond of loyalty and protection strengthened by the encounter. The house, once a haven of comfort and security, now felt tainted, its familiar spaces imbued with the lingering memory of the entity's presence. The shadows seemed deeper, the silence more profound, the air heavy with an unseen weight. They spent the following days in a state of heightened anxiety, their every action tinged with fear, their senses constantly scanning for any sign of the entity's return. They slept fitfully, their dreams haunted by the shadowy figure and its menacing intent. They sought solace in each other's company, their bond strengthened by the shared trauma. They talked about their fears, their doubts, their struggle to comprehend the supernatural events that had shattered their sense of normalcy. They sought professional help, consulting with therapists and spiritual advisors, their search for answers leading them down a path of self-discovery and healing. They learned about the power of positive energy, the importance of faith and resilience, the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. They cleansed their home, not just with sage and crystals, but with laughter and love, their shared joy a defiant act against the darkness that had threatened to consume them. They filled their days with music, their home echoing with the melodies of hope and resilience, their voices a chorus of defiance against the silence that had once held them captive. And they cherished Max, their loyal protector, his presence a constant source of comfort and reassurance. They showered him with affection, their gratitude for his unwavering loyalty and courage immeasurable. They knew that Max had saved Sophie, his instincts and bravery shielding her from the entity's grasp. They also recognized the deeper bond that had been forged in the face of adversity, the shared experience that had strengthened their family, their love for each other a beacon of light in the darkness, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome even the most terrifying of challenges. The scars of their encounter with the entity lingered, a reminder of the darkness that had threatened to consume them. But the Thompson family, their bond forged in the fires of adversity, emerged stronger, their love for each other a beacon of light guiding them towards a new dawn. They learned to live with the lingering unease, the knowledge that the unseen world held forces beyond their comprehension. But they also discovered a resilience within themselves, a strength that had been forged in the face of fear. They transformed their home into a sanctuary of positivity, filling it with laughter, music, and the warmth of shared experiences. They embraced the simple joys of life, their appreciation for each other deepened by the knowledge that their time together was precious. Ben, his paternal instincts now tempered with a newfound wisdom, cherished every moment with Sophie, his love for his daughter a guiding force in his life. He taught her the importance of courage and resilience, the power of facing fears and overcoming challenges. Emily, her nurturing spirit strengthened by the ordeal, created a haven of warmth and security for her family. She nurtured their emotional well-being, her love a constant source of comfort and healing. Sophie, her innocence scarred but not shattered, blossomed into a brave and compassionate young girl. She faced her fears with a newfound courage, her resilience a testament to the love and protection that surrounded her. And Max, their loyal protector, remained a steadfast presence in their lives. His nightly growls subsided, replaced by a gentle watchfulness. His senses still alert, but his demeanor now calm and reassuring. He basked in the warmth of their affection, his loyalty rewarded with endless cuddles and playful games. He accompanied them on their adventures, his presence a reminder of the darkness they had overcome, his unwavering devotion a symbol of the enduring bond between humans and animals. The Thompson family, their story etched in the annals of their home's history, became a testament to the power of love and resilience. They had faced the unknown, confronted their fears, and emerged stronger, their bond unbreakable, their spirits forever intertwined with the loyal companion who had guarded them through the darkness. And as the years passed, their story would be whispered among the residents of their quiet neighborhood, a tale of courage and resilience, a reminder that even in the face of the most terrifying of challenges, the love of a family, the loyalty of a dog, and the enduring strength of the human spirit could conquer the darkness and usher in a new dawn.